Hey folks, welcome back. Pop Retro 1 on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/popretro1. So I wanted to take a few minutes today just to talk a little bit about a movie that came out in 2004 called Cellular. You remember this one? I picked this up a couple years back at a thrift store. A thrift store that is in my local area. And I remember watching it close to when it came out back around 2004. And just a kind of a fun action chase movie with lots of explosions and stunts. And it's funny, this is, I don't know if it's like maybe a Canadian release or something. It's from Alliance. And it's got like the French title also there, you can see. So, Le Cellular, all right. So Cellular, basically, school science teacher, played by Kim Basinger, she gets kidnapped by these, some brutal dudes, led by Jason Statham. Now, they want something from Basinger's husband, and it's not clear what that is, and the movie does a good job of keeping that a mystery, till later in the movie. And so her husband's played by Richard Burgi. Now, Basinger is being kept hostage in the attic of this old house where this gang is hanging out, like what their headquarters is for this. And now she is a science teacher. And so what she's able to do is, naturally, she manages to take this busted up phone, because when they put Kim Basinger up in the attic and tie her up, they don't tie her up really good, so she can kind of move around. But there's a phone up there. There's a phone line and an old school landline phone. They take this phone and throw it against the wall and just smashes it into a million pieces. Well, because she's a science teacher, she's able to piece this phone together while she's alone up there. And she's able to piece it together enough to jerry-rig it so that she's able to call just a random number. She can't like the number pad, the keypad on this old phone doesn't work anymore. It's like, just completely shattered. And so she's like touching wires together to get this old phone to actually just call a number, any number. And I don't know how accurate this is. I mean, it could be total BS what she does, but still, but it is exciting to watch. And so she's able to call a random number, and it happens to be the cell phone to a very young Chris Evans, future Human Torch the following year, and future Captain America many years later. And so Chris Evans is just this young dude. He's trying to, he's just hanging out, trying to get back with his ex-girlfriend, played by Jessica Biel, and he's the one. It's his number that she gets, and he's skeptical at first, and he doesn't really. He thinks it's a prank call or something, and so he, of course, though skeptical, stays on the line, and after that, it just turns into this, big chase with him trying to get the police to believe him or just try to get them to listen to him, and then when that kind of falls through, he kind of tries to take matters into his own hand, because Basinger's son, the little boy, is at school, and these guys, the bad guys, are threatening to go kidnap him if they don't get what they want. And so just all this excitement and just tons of like ticking clock, style of excitement, because Reynolds' cell phone is, it's going to go dead. It's on a battery, and he doesn't have a charger, and that's one of the obstacles. He's got to get a charger at some point, and he doesn't have one in his car with him. But if he loses the connection, he's going to lose the phone call, and it's all going to be for naught, because there's no way he can call her back, because her phone's only works one way, that broken phone. And he, of course, or she, will just only be able to randomly call somebody else again. In other words, she can't call him back. So anyhow, and she's happy she just got somebody to at least listen to her. So anyway, who are these thugs? You know, what are they after? And I won't spoil who these thugs are or what they're after, but like I said, they keep it fairly well hidden, you know, until later in the film when they reveal what they're after and who they actually are, you know, because it comes off as it plays like some big conspiracy is going on in the background. And so you may be surprised what it actually is in the end. You may not, I don't know, but I won't spoil it for those of you who hasn't seen it. So it is kind of interesting though. I mean, I got a Samsung Galaxy 2022 or something. But what about the cell phone in 2004 that it kind of cracks me up because he's taking video with it. He holds it up to like Jessica Biel and starts videotaping. And of course, you know, it's exaggerated, but it shows this little screen on his phone and he's able to take video with it. And even uses it later on in the plot for its video capabilities. But I'm thinking back to, because 2004 was like the year that I got my first cell phone. I had used some cell phones that were work cell phones before that were kind of crappy. But 2004 was like the first year I said, you know what, I still got my landline, but it's, you know, I had waited long enough and decided it was finally time to get an actual cell phone. So I got this thing. This was the model or very similar to it. And I had it for probably a year and a half, and at some point it broke in half, like the top half and the bottom half. Just, you know, because it's a flip phone, you flip it open and closed a million times, and eventually it just wears out. And so then it was just like hanging by the wire, the little wiring in there. So it still worked. So I could still like talk, but, you know, the other piece is, you know, just kind of hanging by the wires. And so, and then in 2006, a couple years later, I upgraded to this, which I still think is probably the coolest phone I ever owned, a Motorola Razr. Do you remember the Razrs? I think just like a couple years ago, they actually brought back the branding for Razr. I don't know a lot about the new versions or anything, but back then this was like the cool cell phone, and it looked really cool. It too, though, was also a flip phone, and it too eventually broke in half, where it was just, you know, dangling. But it lasted, I get a lot of use out of my phone, so it lasted like 2 years, I think. But I don't remember ever, I think I could take photos, really like kind of crappy resolution photos compared to what we got today. But like video, I don't remember being able to take video with these phones. Were you able to take video on your phone in 2004? Did I just have, you know, lower end phones that didn't have that? And definitely they weren't online. They weren't like smartphones where you could, you know, check your social media or check your email. It was really just just texting. And speaking of, do you remember like the first, when you discovered texting? Because I remember it was when I got that first phone, and then just at some evening I just got it ding, and someone said like, "Hey, what's going on?" I was looking at my phone. I was shocked. I was like, what the hell is this? There's words on the screen. And I didn't know what it was. And I was like, what in the world? I went to work the next day. I showed my good friend who I worked with, my coworker who was my good friend. I showed her and I said, what in the world is it? She goes, oh, that's a text message. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, it's just you send text back and forth, kind of like AOL Instant Messenger on your computer or Yahoo Messenger on your computer. It's just, you do it on your phone. And I was like, how do I send a message back? You know, and then, you know, it just showed you how, you know, like each number key had like 3 letters on it. You had to ding, 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 go all the way through them. Younger people probably don't know any of this, because I don't think you had to, you know, if you're like in your 20s now, you probably didn't have to go through and have phones that, you know, were that early in the run of the modern cell phone or whatever. But anyhow, I digress. Cellular is directed by David R. Ellis. He's a former stunt performer, and he knows his stunts. The stunts are great in this. Lots of explosions, car chases, and fist fights, and gunfights, and just tons of action. Written by Larry Cohen, the great Larry Cohen. He wrote Phone Booth in 2002, and as originally conceived, Cellular had some very similar themes to Phone Booth before the production process kind of changed it a little bit. It's been a long time since I watched Phone Booth. I don't think I've watched that since back then either. So I'd like to watch that again and see how I feel about that today. My reason, or my memories, I'll tell you about the reason for my rewatch of this here in a minute, but my memories from watching it way back around 2004, 2005 were just that it was just another fun, kind of run-of-the-mill action flick, kind of a mid-level action flick. And I just remember it being fun and kind of enjoyable, and I kind of forgot about it. And then when I rewatching it today, I mean, man, I thought, man, this is action-packed. It's got a lot of humor, you know, kind of like how a lot of old school TV used to, you know, like if you're watching an episode of Magnum PI or the Rockford Files, how, you know, the crime and the crime solving is kind of serious, but you know, but they're always cracking jokes and just kind of having fun in the middle of it all. And that's kind of what this was like in 2004. And I kind of forgot about that. I guess you could compare it to like the modern superhero movies where they're always kind of, you know, injecting some humor with the quips and stuff like that. I guess what I enjoyed mostly, I guess, is just that, you know, this was, it's not super CGI superhero, super spectacular type of thing. It's all like, you know, I mean, obviously there's some unrealistic stuff with all the stunts and stuff. And as always, you know, where are the cops in this, you know, running all the red lights and running through construction zones, even though he's trying to do something good. But it was just, it's action without all the spectacle, the out of this world spectacle that you get with today's modern action movies, or most of them, a lot of them. And so, I don't know, just watching it, it almost seemed like such a throwback. And I guess it is, it's almost 20 years ago now, 19 years ago as I'm doing this video. But there's no message, no messagey stuff in the movie. And again, just straight ahead action, I guess, except maybe it was poking fun at our burgeoning obsession with the modern cell phones and what they would become. So I imagine back then in 2004, that probably seemed out of this world to me, recording video on a cell phone back then, because I don't remember my phone doing that. But so anyhow, the reason why I decided to rewatch this movie is because there's a movie that I just got from the following year in 2005. It was released recently on Blu-ray by Mill Creek Entertainment. And so I'm doing a review of this movie soon. It's called London. I'm doing a more reviewing it in a more official capacity. This movie, but I happened to be watching it the other night, and I told my friend. My friend messaged me while I was watching it, and so I just kind of messaged her back, and I said, "Yeah, just watching this movie from 2005 that I don't really remember." I said, "Yeah, it's got Chris Evans is in it. He's like the main character," and she goes, "Oh wow, 2005, yeah." And I go, "Yeah, Chris Evans." And he's trying to get back with his girlfriend, Jessica Biel, played by Jessica Biel. And she's like, "Oh, yeah. They were both in Cellular." And I go, "Oh, yeah, that's right. They were both in." And then I kind of looked it up and go, "God, they came out around the same time." And then I said, "Oh, and Jason Statham is also in this movie." And she was like, "Yeah, he was in Cellular too." I was like, "God, you're right." And so I don't know what the connection between these two films are, if there even is one or was one, but this came out in 2004 and this came out in 2005. And the three of the main actors in Cellular the next year were in London, from a different production company and a completely different type of movie too. So it also has, Cellular also had William H. Macy is also in it. And who else? Got my notes here. Noah Emmerich, Matt McColm, who was kind of a stunt guy and B-level action, direct-to-video action guy. I think Matt McColm doubled for David Hasselhoff and Knight Rider a lot during a lot of the fight scenes back in the day. Eric Etebari, another action guy from back in the day, and Valerie Cruz is also in this. So yeah, take a look at this Blu-ray. I don't know if it's gotten a newer release. This is from, let's see if it says, I can't find a copyright on the actual Blu-ray release, but I know I picked it up from the thrift store several years back. And again, it was released by Alliance. So let's open it up. So look at the disc. It does have some reversible art. And the reversible art, of course, it's the same art. It's all the French language version. So maybe I should just flip it around, have the French language version showing, stick it on the shelf that way. I don't know. Le CELLULAR. So there you have it, folks. That is Cellular from 2004. I will be reviewing soon London with 3 of the same main actors in it that came out the following year. So thanks for joining me, and I'll be back soon with that review, some even more reviews, and even more haul videos coming up real soon. I'll see you then.